Welcome to National Podcast Post Month here on the Odd Dad Out podcast, where I am scrambling my ass off to get 30 episodes done in 30 days, and I'm way behind because I missed another one because house stuff. That's really it. House stuff. But it's Friday. It is the 15th because I had to look at my watch. I'm sad. Sorry. And if you're in the Twitterverse and podcasting, it is Follow Friday. And so, you know what? I haven't done one of these yet, and I said I was going to. It's time for recommended listening.
Recommended listening.
So today, I am telling you about another NAPODPOMO show going on right now from my buddy Paul Csomo from the Varmints podcast. And I don't have a clip because, honestly, nobody's making, like, promos and trailers and stuff for these going on. But basically what Paul has managed to do is something that he's kind of admitted not necessarily scares him, but he was very uncomfortable with at first. Paul's doing a solo show. Not only is he doing solo, he's doing improvised solo. And it basically is the flow of thought and the random train of craziness that I kind of open up here every week-ish. And I always say that this is probably the hardest form of podcasting, and I take it for granted that I do this strictly because I've been doing it for so long. But this is not easy. Going on mic and improvising and just telling stories and dumping your brain out is not easy, because it's very easy to just not know what to say. And it takes a master bullshitter like myself to be able to string a coherent story out of an idea and just be like pulling it out of your head at a moment's notice, and to be able to shape something out of that. And I don't think he realized how good he is at it, but Paul has managed to pull this off very effectively. And although he has openly stated through the course of the show, and he has managed to keep up his daily shows, he also pre-recorded. Yeah, he recorded in advance and at least is a little bit ahead of the curve, because that's smart. And unlike me, who I pre-recorded a bunch of interviews that I still have yet to edit all of, and I've been doing these every day ish. And that's why I've been missing days, because I didn't pre-record, because I'm stupid that way. But anyway, so Paul is doing Checkin In With Csomo, and it is available on Anchor, and it's in Apple Podcasts and all the places now. And of course, I'll link in the show notes, because, you know, podcast bingo, linked in the show notes. But yeah, it's just been really fun, and it's been really cool listening to Paul. And because, you know, other than like when he comes on here, where, you know, we've talked before, and I've kind of said this with most guests, when you're a podcaster and you go on another podcast, you typically talk about the thing that your show is about. And that's almost exclusively what people get invited for. And yeah, I have the distinct advantage of my show is so crazy I can just go and talk, but I also don't go on a lot of other podcasts. But when Paul is invited on shows, most of the time, with exception to like Play Comics, because it's a very niche show, he's invited on to talk about animals. That's kind of it. And in this show, with Checkin In With Csomo, he gets to open up and just kind of open his brain up and talk about whatever. And he had people send in questions, and he's just had, you know, hey, here's what happened. Here's this crazy thing that happened to me over the weekend. You know, I went out and, you know, found out that Vietnamese coriander is like a cousin or whatever to cilantro. And he's one of those guys with that genetic predisposition to hate cilantro. Who knew? But it's stories like that. The same kind of bullshit that I give you, but from a much more interesting person who does shit. So it's really cool getting into the minds of my podcast friends. And again, that's why I bring them on the show. But it's cool to have somebody else get to this experience, because it's so different because you're getting a peek into their who they are personally, because we stay so guarded behind the characters and the host role and whatever we do in our show, that it is really kind of, you only know the part of us that we tell you, unless you're some dumbass like me who tells you everything, because I'm a dumbass like that. But, Paul is very hidden behind the being the face of Varmints. And so this really, it's really cool just getting to know Paul Csomo, the guy, the dad, the guy who lives in Florida. Paul Csomo, Florida man. That should be the next name. That's if he said he wants to continue doing the show, I think he should rebrand it Paul Csomo, Florida man. I don't know. But it's still fun. It's just cool, and I'm enjoying listening to bits and pieces of his brain every day, and I think you'd enjoy it too. If you enjoy listening to me at all, then I think you'd get a kick out of it, because again, it's like listening to me but much more interesting. So I'm gonna I know, short show. And I got crap from one of the guys at work because they go, oh my God, why'd you even bother with such a short show? Because it's every fucking day, man. But I'm wrapping it up. Again, linked to that Checkin In With Csomo. It's at anchor.fm/Paul-Csomo. That's CSOMO. Of course, link in the show notes, because of course there's a link in the show notes. And a bit of housekeeping. This weekend, I'm finally caught up, at least. I know I said I'm behind on interviews, but this weekend, coming up Saturday, I have my interview with Kate Wallinga from Ignorance is Bliss and Life World. This was part of the prepared questions segment that I had started with for interviews. And I think she was one of the few that actually got through the questions before things turned on their head and I abandoned that format. And then coming up Sunday, I have Natalie Evans from A Girl in Her Horror and Some Kind of Brown. I don't know why I mentioned her second show first, maybe because that's the one I listen to more often. But I have, and again, that was one of those where I started with the questions, but halfway through, I just said, fuck it. This is more fun than the questions I had planned. So we rolled with it. And honestly, it's going to be a long one. That one is actually about an hour. And it's an hour out of a 2-hour conversation that I cut off, and I almost just rolled it all, but I could not cut any of it because it was just so good. So long one coming up on Sunday, but it's worth it. It was so much fun. So be on the lookout for those. And I'll be doubling up more next week just for the sake of time. But until then, catch me at oddadoutpodcast.com/NAPODPOMO 2019. Hit me on the social medias, all of them at OddDadOut. Subscribe to the show, share it with your friends and family and enemies and whoever the fuck. And until tomorrow, adios.